All right, everybody, Vac-Con John here today, and we are at the home of Vac-Con in Green Cove Springs, Florida, and we're gonna check out the Vac-Con CXT Hydrovac. Now, this is strictly a hydro excavator, so we're gonna be using high pressure water and vacuum to daylight utilities, pothole, or do any digging whatsoever. Let's take a closer look. Just to get into a little detail about the drive system makeup on this CXT, we're running the vacuum off the transfer case hydrostatically. So we've got a hydrostatic pump mounted to the transfer case that's responsible for vacuum. Then we've got a hydrostatic pump here up front on the front engine PTO. So the benefit of this is my water's always gonna be live anytime I need it. I can just stroke this pump and bring up to whatever pressure I want, and my hydraulics are always gonna be live. So I don't need to engage anything for my hydraulics to be live. Now, if you wanted to customize the drive system makeup of this truck, super easy. We can locate this hydrostatic pump back on the transfer case too, because anytime you're digging, you're gonna want that vacuum. So you can put the water hydrostatic pump and the vacuum hydrostatic pump on that transfer case if you choose. This CXT can be put on any chassis brand that you want. So we can work with any manufacturer, any local dealer, and work that spec out with them to get exactly what we need for this CXT. One benefit we have is we have pool trucks on the ground at all times. So that really helps out with lead times. So this is a Freightliner. We also have Western Stars. This is a Freightliner 114 SD Plus. So it's a tandem axle. We have a lift axle on this truck too. This is gonna be a mid-range. So it's a Cummins L9 370 horsepower. We also have the big bore as an option. So the way that we outfit the truck is not bare bones. We always give that chassis some option content that the driver wants, the operator needs. So we've got inspection ports on either side of the hood. It's an air ride cab with dual air ride seats, power windows, power mirrors, heated mirrors, Bluetooth radio, cruise control. You have all the bare essentials that you could need out of the chassis. This CXT is highly customizable, just like any Vac-Con product. The easiest things to configure on any new product is going to be lights, cameras, tool storage, and pipe storage. So as far as lights go on this truck, we have 2 strobes on the mirrors, we have 2 strobes on the rear debris tank, you have 6 strobes around the body. We have floodlights on the boom, you have floodlights out back, and you have floodlights out on either side of the truck. That way you're always safe during night work. When we talk about tool storage, this truck comes standard with a bunch of tool storage in these diamond plate aluminum tool storage boxes. So this is a through toolbox that goes all the way to the other side, giving you that long handle storage. It goes 96-inch across through. Then when we take a closer look down here, this toolbox is actually holding our water pump, our 100-foot hydro excavation reel. This toolbox is holding our control panel. And then we've got boxes on the other side where we have 2 huge full boxes on the driver's side of the truck for storage as well. The pipe storage we chose on this build is our Lazy Susan pipe rack. It's really nice because it's mechanical and it's lightweight, it's made of aluminum. And then we have a folding pipe rack on the back door that comes down electronically so that you can easily grab those pipes off. All of that can be customized. When we get into the camera selection, this went basic with just that rear camera for safety. So you've got a 7-inch monitor inside the cab, and you've got that rear camera showing at all times. So when you go into reverse, it's automatically showing, and when you're driving down the road, that rear camera is still gonna show you what's behind you. We use 12-volt hardwire controls on this Hydrovac. So all of those controls are gonna be in this diamond plate aluminum storage box. So let's take a close look at that. Looking at the left side of the control panel, on the top left, we've got our water pressure gauge. And underneath that, we have our control panel for our heater. So we have all of these toolboxes enclosed and heated on this truck. So I can control my diesel fired heater from this panel. I've got another controller for a diesel fired heater on the driver's side of the truck as well. Then I have a ball valve associated with each place that I can send water. So there's 3 different places that we can send water on this truck. We have the low pressure hand gun, which is going to give you 750 PSI. We have the high pressure hand gun, or the hydro excavation side. That's going to give you a full 4,000 PSI. We've got our debris tank flush out, which is also going to give you that full 4,000 PSI. All of the ball valves are associated with each place I can send water, and then I have a pump control valve which can pressurize any one of those places. On the right side of the control panel, starting from the top, we have any light switches that we want to tie in here, we just chose to put our control panel light switch here. So I've got an LED light bar up top, which will illuminate this entire control panel, which I can turn on with the switch here. I can also tie in any floods or strobes that I want on this electrical options panel. Underneath that, I have my boom function. So I can move this boom with the joystick up, down, left, and right, and I can use the extension for the boom with the switch next to it. For my water pump operation and my vacuum pump operation, they have very similar switch packs. And this is gonna allow me to stroke the hydrostatic pump at 25% increments. So I can start off at 25%, 50, 75, and 100, and I can run that water system separate from the vacuum system, so I can choose how high I want either of those functions to be. In the middle, I've got my truck engine operation. So this is where I'm actually going to tell that chassis that I want to control it from the side of the truck. I just flip the truck engine on, and then I can increase or decrease my RPMs, and I've got my tach right here in the middle telling me what those RPMs are. At the very bottom, we've got our e-stop and our 12-volt plug-in, so that if we had a plugged-in light that we wanted to use, we can plug it right here at the 12-volt station. On the inside of this door, you're going to have all of your air purge operations for when you winterize the truck. You're going to have some safety decals, and you're going to have your water system specs. In these lower mounted boxes, this is where we're housing everything for our water system. So we've got our water pump housed underneath here, which is a giant 20 gallon per minute at 4,000 PSI triplex water pump. And then we've got our 100-foot reel for our hydro excavation circuit. Now this reel you would pull out by hand, but there's actually an electronic wind. So I can wind this back electronically, and I can throttle what my speed is off to the side of it as well. I've also got my main drain for the water tanks. I've got my main water strainer, and then I've got a winter recirculation fitting. So if I wanted to roll down the road with water recirculating through the truck, I can take this 100-foot reel, plug it in here, recirculate that water with a flip of a switch inside the cab. So everything in here is really laid out quite nicely, and we've got our insulation inside of here as well. So we have a diesel fire heater, which is housed inside here. I can choose my temperature and the time that I want it to run for, and it's all packed in with insulation inside this box. If I wanted to keep this box heated as I was operating, I can run my high pressure hose through this porthole here and keep this insulation as closed as possible with just one small opening. Filtration is always key on any hydrovac. Now the way that we're running filtration, we're bringing that debris through a rear mounted boom. So it's entering the top back of the debris tank. The first stage of filtration is going to be the fallout inside the tank, because that air has to run all the way to the front of the debris tank, and it's going to exit that debris tank, but it's exiting through a stainless steel screen inside the tank. Once it exits that tank, it's going to run through our Cyclonic separator. This is going to spin that air down to the bottom and shoot it up through the top. So we're going to get a lot of that fine particulate falling to the bottom here. Now, anything that's left in that air, as soon as it exits the Cyclonic separator, it's going to go through this final filter. So we've got another stainless steel screen inside this final filter to catch any other material floating in the air. This is another stage where we can change this up and put a pleated cartridge inside this final filter as well. It's completely up to the customer. Once it leaves this final filter, it's straight to that PD blower or the fan, whichever you choose. On this truck, going straight to that 824 Roots blower. Here's a good look at our rear mounted boom. So this boom system is a 7-foot extendable boom. So we have this tie-in point where we can clamp down on that boom to support it from any movement, but it's also resting on a headache rack up there on the debris tank. This has 330 degrees of rotation, so we can pick it up and move it to the curbside all the way around the back side of the truck, and it rotates all the way around to the driver's side, giving you that full 330 degrees of rotation. But the other really big thing is you get 45 degrees vertically up in the air, and you can go below grade 22 degrees all the way down, which minimizes how many pipe extensions you need to put when you're actually daylighting or potholing. We always think about where our water is stored on the truck. It's not something to just throw by the wayside. We have our water stored in cross-linked polyethylene water tanks. They have a 10-year warranty, but we're still keeping a lot of that water below the frame of the truck. So we've got one water tank on this side here, we've got 2 on the opposite side down below the frame, and then we've got 4 water tanks up next to the debris tank, which is a very small piece of the overall water on the truck. Right here on the curbside, we've got our low pressure handgun. So this is going to give us a 750 PSI, no more, no less. So it's great for washing down the truck or washing down a work area without using too much pressure. And we've got our debris tank controls. So right on top of these debris tank controls, we've got our transfer case oil temperature gauge. Now, this is something that you don't have to worry about because we use air-cooled hydraulics. We're not using a normal heat exchanger on the truck. We've got one hydraulic cooling fan, which does our main hydraulic reservoir. We've got one smaller cooling fan, which is strictly for transfer case oil temperature. Right underneath that, we've got our debris tank controls. Again, we have a wireless remote, so if you're dumping, you're most likely going to want to use that wireless remote, but you've got the ability to stay away from the debris and dump here if you want. So we've got a locking pin. Since we're using a rear-mounted boom, we have a locking pin that locks the debris tank into place on the body. Anytime I want to dump, I would get out of what we call boom mode, where we're moving the boom with that debris tank locked in, and I would go into debris tank mode. So I would unlock that pin, then I have the debris tank up and down, and the flat door open and close. Another thing that this truck has gone with is a vibrator on the debris tank. That way I can turn this vibrator on and shake any of that debris loose inside the debris tank, along with using my high pressure flush out in the back of the tank. Last things curbside, we've got our fill hose here, which is just 25 foot of fire hose with a 2.5 inch fitting on it for a hydrant. You can always change up that fitting and go cam lock if you want, but you also have your debris level indicator up top, which has that limit switch above it. Just like any Vac-Con, we have automatic overfill protection. And this is done externally. We do not rely on anything inside the debris tank to create a seal for that automatic overfill protection. So this float ball rises inside the tank. That arrow is going to hit that limit switch and tell my vacuum breakers to close. That way I don't overfill the debris tank. The flat style door has two hydraulic cylinders that are controlling the door open and closed, and it has 4 wedge locks that lock this door into place. Now, these wedge locks are not small little locks. These are really large wedge locks that positively seal the door. Up top, you can see our folding pipe rack. So that's electronically actuated, where you can bring this pipe rack down to a level that's easy to take your pipe on and off. Then you can see our decant valve here. This is our standard 6-inch knife valve, where you can decant your liquid off, keep your material inside the debris tank. This is our standard location. So you can choose any location on the back door, and people look at this and think that this is a high location. In reality, this tank tilts 50 degrees up in the air. So the only place that's not getting decanted is that very bottom corner. If you wanted to put one lower mounted, you can. We can do an additional 6-inch or 8-inch knife valve down low. You can also plug in your low pressure handgun fitting and back flush that valve if it does get clogged. On the rear driver's side of the truck, it gives us a really good look at this lift axle. So this is not required for this build, but if you're a contractor rolling around town, a lot of guys with this 12-yard truck are gonna go with a lift axle. So you can put this down, it's air actuated, but you also get a good look at our ladder system here. So you can add another ladder here, climb up and get access to your boom turret. So that way you can access the solenoids that are up there, any of the 12-volt functions, and diagnose any issues easily and safely. This PD blower location is huge. So we have a really good look at our PD blower here. Now, this was what separates the Vac-Con CXT from a lot of the Hydrovacs on the market. We run this PD blower hydrostatically off the transfer case. That allows us to put it in a location that makes sense. So we have the oil level facing out to the driver's side and the inspection port facing out to the driver's side. That way, if you run into any issues or you want to check your oil level, you don't have to jump into the middle of the truck and check everything out. It's really easy to access right from ground level. Some other things to point out, this is a Roots 824 RCS. We have other blower options as well. Most popular are going to be that Roots 824 or that Roots 827, but we have a lot of different blower options to go through. Here's our remote grease bank. So we have our boom, our debris tank, and our scissor lift underneath the debris tank for lift, all remote greased off to the side. That way it's really easy to access everything driver's side and get your grease points done. We're utilizing a Dynablast boiler for our high pressure circuit so that we could dig with hot water if we choose to do so. It's very easy to control. You would just come in, flip the switch and turn it on. Then you can choose between two different temperature settings. You have 170 degrees Fahrenheit or 125 degrees Fahrenheit. This is all diesel fired, so it's easy to run. You just flip it on. If you forget to turn it off, it just has a timer that goes ahead and clocks off when you're done digging. To wrap up, we get a really good look at our other tool storage that we have on the driver's side. So we've got two large toolboxes here. This is that through toolbox that we saw on the curb side of the truck. And right here, this 6-bolt panel is watertight, and this is where it's gonna house all of the Vac-Con electronic components. So any 12-volt function, our wireless remote transmitter, everything is stored right behind this panel for very easy access. Hope you guys enjoyed the walk around. Thanks for following along. If you guys have any questions on the Vac-Con CXT or any Vac-Con product, shoot it in the comments or send me a message and I can get you in touch with your local dealership or I can answer you directly. Make sure to follow me on all the social media accounts across the board so that you guys can stay up to date with all the Vac-Con happenings. And remember, work safe and buy Vac-Con.